Welcome back to this episode of Popcorn Diaries, where we're going to be discussing sci-fi movies and everything that entails. So whether it's killer robots, killer aliens, or killer anything, big giant spiders, bugs, everything. We've had such a fascination with the sci-fi genre ever since the earliest days of Hollywood. One of the earliest movies ever created was actually a sci-fi movie, which was Trip to the Moon. Was a 1902 French film. So we've definitely had a fascination with this genre. So we're going to talk about it a little bit, the good, the bad, and then some of our favorite movies of all time. So Joe, some of the bad.
Well, when you talk about the genre of science fiction, we tend to think space movies and that kind of thing. But you do have to widen your horizons a little bit and consider that it can be anything that is probably not part of normal day life, certainly fantasy, things like that. Even though we started in the 1900s experimenting with science fiction, it really didn't get to be very popular until into the 50s.
Yes.
Okay, that's when the science fiction movie genre really exploded. I mean, there were movies coming out every other day, it seemed like, and boy, were there a lot of bad ones. And there were some good ones, too. So, if you're asking for some stuff not to see, but you should see it because it is so bad, it's good. Attack of the Puppet People.
Yes.
Okay, a classic 1958, folks. If you ever get a chance to see it, see it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, don't discount the 1964 movie Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
Oh, yes, I did hear about that movie. Never watched it, but did hear about it.
They're so bad. It looks like they were filmed for $20. It's just amazing that these came out. But again, back in the 50s, we were absolutely fascinated with the whole UFO, sci-fi,
Yes.
we are not alone kind of thing. These movies, everyone flocked to see them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember there was quite a phenomenon during the 50s with sci-fi movies that they even had, like, smell-o-vision. Remember smell-o-vision?
I do remember that.
They tried to incorporate real elements while you were watching the movie just to get you even more into the space that they were trying to create in that movie. And they did that a lot with the sci-fi genre. And, I mean, you have to look at it in the perspective of our civilization during that time. We had just come out of a war, so there was still a lot of uncertainty in the world at that time. And that kind of closely relates to this genre. Another one that I do want to bring up is something a little more in the 70s, was a movie all about snakes. And the actual title of this movie, now I didn't get to see this movie because it's kind of hard to find, but I just have to bring it up because the title is actually just a bunch of S's.
Yeah, I have not seen it either, but I am aware of that movie. It's just a bunch of S's.
Yeah. The sci-fi genre encompasses a lot of animals that are always out to get us. And snakes are just one part of the whole. There's killer sharks, there's killer bees, killer ants, killer spiders, like eight-legged freaks. That's another movie that was just so over the top. But, got to give it up to this genre.
Well, don't forget that, like you said, we just came out of the war. There was, the atom bomb. So there was all this talk about nuclear. And so, of course, a lot of these movies always kind of went with, some nuclear experiment went bad, and you get this, creature that, morphs into something big. And, of course, it's always, some ant, like you said, or a spider. And, that
or you flush an alligator down a toilet.
Yeah, and that type of thing. But I think the reason science fiction has been so popular, and it will continue to be popular, is because we all love to fantasize about, the kind of what-if scenario. What if there were flying saucers? What if there was time travel? What if there was lightsabers, things like that? So because of that, movie makers feed off of, what we want to see, and that's fantasy.
Yeah, not to mention that this genre also lends itself to a lot of special effects, especially nowadays. I mean, back in the 50s, they were limited by what they could do. So you saw a lot of model work, a lot of different little models getting blown up.
Yeah, miniatures and
things like that. But now in this technological day and age where we've got 3D modeling, CG, and everything, visual effects, this genre really plays to that. You get to see these huge spaceships. Like last year we had Star Trek Into Darkness. This was a gorgeous film, and it had great special effects, and it was actually a pretty good movie. I liked that movie very much. So the sci-fi genre is definitely here to stay. It's something that we have explored countless times, and Hollywood will continue to explore that. So let's talk about some of the good sci-fi movies.
Well, fortunately, I think there's a lot more good than bad because we've gotten past that time where everybody wanted and tolerated the bad stuff from the 50s and 60s. Some of the best ones out there, Close Encounters, was a great movie when it came out. The first Jurassic Park, a favorite. Okay,
Oh, yes, it is, definitely.
Not space stuff, but that was so well done. The Terminator series.
Definitely.
With Arnold. Avatar just lately was a good. Inception. These were all very, very popular, very good movies, and some of my favorites.
I remember watching Jurassic Park for the first time, and I know some of it was CG, some of it was puppetry, but it was just beautiful. It was a beautiful film.
It's a very well done movie.
Yes, it is. And then another movie you shouldn't discount. This is an older movie. This is probably one of the more iconic sci-fi movies. One of the first ones, of course, Metropolis.
Oh, yeah.
Metropolis is still silent era. It was still in the silent era, but it was such a good movie. 1939, I believe.
Yeah.
For the time that this was made, some of these special effects look pretty good.
Yeah, and as we came up through the time, you can't discount some of the other ones that did very well during that very popular period of the 50s and 60s. There was The Day the Earth Stood Still, the original one, which is a classic movie, Forbidden Planet with Leslie Nielsen.
Yes.
That's where we got introduced to Robbie the Robot.
Yes.
And I had that toy when I was a kid. I had it when I saw it. That's it. I got that one for Christmas or something like that. And then we moved into the other classics, Clockwork Orange, E.T., don't forget things like Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Road Warrior, even though that was here and no evil space aliens or anything like that.
I mean, you can even go as far as to think of Mad Max.
Absolutely, yeah, Mad Max. And don't forget Aliens, the whole Alien.
Oh, my God. Alien is just such an iconic film franchise. It's got the whole look. You've got this vision of H.R. Geiger that comes to life. It's a dark and beautiful film. I mean, no matter what, you got to give it up to the artistry of H.R. Geiger. These aliens are creepy. They look sleek, though. They look very lethal. And to see them come alive on film was terrifying and at the same time awe-inspiring.
Yeah, that was, I think, really groundbreaking because it was up close and personal.
It was.
And you knew these things were just right around the corner and they were going to bite your face off or whatever they were going to do. And I'll never forget the scene where the one character goes looking for the cat.
Oh, yeah.
In the hangar bay, and there's dripping water. It's dark. The chains are moving. And I'm just screaming at the movie going, get out of that room. Get out of the room. You are going to get. And sure enough, he buys it right there in that room. So
that is probably one of the things that you have to admire about this genre is the death scenes are over the top all the time.
And we expect that. Want that. Yeah,
we do expect that. This is definitely one of the genres that is a guilty pleasure for many people because you get to see all these special effects and you get to see these horrific death scenes.
Yeah. I think one last before we move on to some of our picks, don't discount the original Blob movie, which had Steve McQueen in it, who played a teenager, and he was really 28 years old at the time. It's not a great movie, folks, but you do need to see it, especially if you're a Steve McQueen fan. You just have to see it. And just so you know, he made that movie for $2,500.
Yeah, you were talking about that earlier, and that's, even by today's standards, that was pretty cheap. Before we do move on, I do want to talk about E.T., Steven Spielberg's greatest sci-fi movie, in my opinion. We had this very young Drew Barrymore in this movie. Oh, my God, she looks so adorable in this movie. And we've got this cute, adorable alien character that just really touches your heart, and it was such a good movie. It's one of the better good alien movies.
Yes.
Not one of the ones where they're trying to come and take over the world, as opposed to the new vision of like District 9. I do love this movie. District 9 was such a good movie.
Yeah, definitely go see that one.
Definitely see that one. Along the same lines, Elysium, made by the same director, same vision.
Yep.
He's got such a good, gritty vision. Love it. Just watch it. Pay attention to the themes in these movies. They will touch everything that you think about these days.
Yeah, he does a good job of that, especially with the District 9. There is a lot of underlying
social issues
on that one. So yeah, definitely don't miss or don't pass up on that one.
So let's move on.
Yeah, okay. So
our top picks.
Joe, picks. Okay.
You take it away.
All right, top 3 picks, folks. And this is incredibly difficult to do because there is so much good out there, in my opinion. But I'm going to start with The Matrix. Keanu Reeves, of course. Boy, where do you start with this movie? This movie was so groundbreaking when it came out with its imagery, the look, the special effects. They were the folks that introduced that whole multi-shot where everything sits still and they kind of spin around it, which has been duplicated a gazillion times since. And just the story itself of being held hostage without knowing it,
Yes.
and living in a dream world. I mean, this has got everything. And I'll never forget when I saw this at the movie theater. I had no idea what I was walking into. All I knew was, it's a sci-fi movie, fine, sure. And I sat there and my mouth was open.
Yeah.
And it's got such great mix of not only the elements I just talked about, but things like, the battle scenes and the weaponry and, everything like that that's mixed in there. The one scene where they're in the entrance to the building and they just shoot up that entire area. What a great scene.
Actually on my list as well as my number 2.
Oh, okay. Great.
The Matrix was definitely an iconic film. It's still to this day for sci-fi filmmaking. You can't go anywhere without hearing a quote about who's going to take the red pill versus the blue pill.
And I am the one.
And I am the one. I mean, you had such great special effects, groundbreaking special effects that
Absolutely.
have been duplicated since then. And then, as you said, the fight scenes were just amazing. You had not only hand-to-hand combat, you had weaponry, you had, oh my God, when he brought out the Gatling gun on the helicopter and you just get that great shot where, Morpheus is running through the building to jump onto the helicopter and you get the shot from underneath and you see all these shells just falling and it's amazing. All these bullets are flying everywhere. This was definitely a film that made you think, you know? You always kind of sat there and thought, wow, this is such a cool premise. What if we are in the Matrix? What if this? What if that? So it's definitely a good film. I love it. I still watch it from time to time. It's one of my favorites. It's definitely up there.
Yep, I still see it when it runs on TV here and there. I mean, I obviously own the movie. A couple of interesting trivia facts about it, so that we like to include in some of this. In Greek mythology, Morpheus is the god of dreams.
Yes, he is.
Which is interesting because he's all about taking people out of the dream state and moving them to reality. So that was kind of interesting. If you remember the fight scene between Morpheus and Neo, Neo rubs his nose as he's about to fight, and that was a nod to the late, great Bruce Lee. And that type of thing. Will Smith was approached to play Neo. Oh, my.
I know. I've got to say, Keanu Reeves has been kind of the butt of so many Hollywood jokes. You can't walk around saying the name Keanu Reeves without somebody saying, whoa.
Yeah.
But you have to admit that he was good for this role.
He was perfect.
Fit this role, So I could not see Will Smith pulling this off. I mean, Will Smith is a great actor. Do not get me wrong. I love Will Smith. He's done some amazing movies, but I just cannot see him as the one.
No, he was absolutely perfect for this role. I can't, just like you, I cannot imagine anyone else playing it. But also, for Lawrence Fishburne playing, Morpheus, I cannot imagine anyone else playing. He was perfect in that role. But they actually considered Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh God, I am grateful that they didn't. You know my views on Samuel L. Jackson. He's a great actor, but doesn't work for me.
So, folks, if you haven't seen The Matrix, if you haven't seen the trilogy, all 3 movies, go see it. You will not be disappointed. Yes, there are some that say the second and third movies are not as good, but I say all 3 of them are very, very watchable. And certainly if you're a sci-fi fan, don't pass it up.
Definitely. And I know they are available here at the library. So let's move on to your next pick.
Okay. This is no surprise here. Those folks that know me, got to go with Star Wars.
Yes.
And when I say Star Wars, I'm talking about the 4th movie, which was actually the first movie. Okay, so let's kind of keep that straight. This one really opened up the door. There was some stuff before this, but when this hit, this was our first taste of great traditional storytelling mixed in space, good guys, bad guys, lightsabers, robots, battles, and just great overall storytelling. So this is my number 2. What can you say about this? There's 6 movies now. Obviously, Lucas has done incredibly well on this. You can't imagine anyone else playing the major parts, of Luke and Han and Princess Leia and so on. I watched this movie again and again. I own it when it comes on TV. It was just on last week. They were running the trilogy on one of the cable stations. I actually stopped and started watching. My wife actually said, "Again, seriously, haven't you really going to sit and watch this?" And it is true. I'll watch it every time it's on. It is by far a personal favorite of mine.
I watched this movie quite a few times, so it's definitely a great sci-fi film. I will agree with you on that one. My number 2 was already revealed, which was The Matrix. I'm going to reveal my number 3. So my number 3 was actually Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park has always held a special place in my heart. Don't ask me why. I just connect with the story. That moment where he sees the dinosaurs for the first time and they're on that hilltop and he just loses his composure and he falls to his knees. That moment was just so awe-inspiring. You see these gorgeous animals walking in front of the screen. It's this beautiful landscape, and it's like watching a slice of time. Absolutely. Revealed before your eyes. So it's having the past converge with the present. This is a good story. I love it. I think it inspires us to want to see behind the curtain, to see what could be possible. Yep. Yeah, there is that whole also underlying question of playing God, is it actually good?
Yeah, cloning and that type of thing.
And they do address these issues. More and more as technology advances, we have that ability to kind of play God in so many different scenarios, whether it's medically, whether it's cloning and things like that. So it does raise that issue of whether, because we can do these things, should we? And this genre does actually explore some of those issues. You have other movies like AI, if you ever watched this movie. This was another movie that's beautiful, another Steven Spielberg sci-fi film. But that movie also raised the question of, just because we can build artificial intelligence, should we do it? Right. And if we do, should we treat it the way that we do? So there's a lot of themes like this that underlie in a lot of these different sci-fi movies, but Jurassic Park was it hit a home run for me. I love this movie. So that's why I made my top 3.
Yeah, and a great choice because the visuals on this are just outstanding. When you see those dinosaurs, you buy into it. You don't even say, "Oh, that's not there." An excellent choice. That is, as I said earlier, one of my favorite movies also.
So let's hear your number 1.
All right, number 1. I got to go with 2001: A Space Odyssey. That was released, I believe, in 1968. This was the granddaddy of them all. Up until then, there was the cheesy stuff that happened in the 50s and the 60s and that type of thing. But this one was the first one that was visually just outstanding for the day. The way they made this movie, the way the space stations were, I mean, you just sat there and watched this and said, "Oh my, I've never seen anything like this before in any kind of a movie." So Stanley Kubrick really pulled out all the stops on this one. Great storytelling. It's one of those movies you watch and you walk away and go, "What was all that about?" And that was done on purpose.
Yeah.
Because we always see so many movies that you have the definite ending, happy ending, sad ending, whichever it is. But this one definitely left you walking away saying, "What was that all about?" And again, for what this represented and what it really, really started to show is this is what movie making is capable of doing.
Yeah. That movie definitely showcased a lot of things. It was new. It was innovative. It definitely stands up to the test of time, though. That's one of the greatest things is that this movie is still, you watch it and there is always something that you kind of discovered.
A couple other trivia things about 2001. The mission control voice was actually the voice of a U.S. Air Force mission controller.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that was real. There's no dialogue in the first 25 minutes of the movie, which is very, very different. It's a G-rated movie, okay, which is very, very different for a space or sci-fi movie, if you will. And if you add one letter to HAL, that was the computer that took over. It's IBM. Which is interesting. Speaking of special effects, back then special effects were very difficult to do as opposed to today, and they did not have CGI. And if you remember the floating pen, which was just you watch that and say, "Oh my, look at that! That is just outstanding." They just took the pen and taped it to a piece of glass, and they moved the glass around. So that's how they did that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of little neat tricks that they pulled off in that movie. And again, that's something that I keep saying. In the early era of Hollywood history, you had to be innovative. You had to find a way. Great movie, great choice.
So you're number one. I'm just dying to hear what it is.
You're going to be surprised by this one.
No, I won't.
My number one is actually The Fifth Element.
The Fifth Element, yeah.
This has been one of my favorite movies for such a long time. Now, there are people that will say, oh, well, the story wasn't that great. I thought the story was good. But my favorite part of this whole movie is the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
The way that they edit and cut from dialogue to dialogue and just kind of make a whole new scene out of cutting from one person to the next to get their point across. I love this movie. I've loved this movie visually. It's stunning.
The visuals are outstanding.
To this day, not too long ago, I watched it again, and I actually watched it on a very high-resolution TV, and it looked great, which I was really fascinated by because a lot of movies in the 90s, if you watch those graphics nowadays, they've fallen apart, kind of.
Yeah, they don't translate well.
They do not translate well, but this movie still stands up visually. It's beautiful. The artistry in this was great. Like I said, the dialogue for me was amazing. I love the interplay between all these different characters, some of them that don't even meet. For example, trivia is that the hero, Bruce Willis, and the villain, Gary Oldman, even though there's so many scenes where they cut the dialogue from one to the next, these two characters in the movie never actually see each other or meet.
Mm-hmm.
So they never have a spoken word between them, but the way that they edit it almost seems like they're having a conversation. Yeah. Love the way that they've edited this movie. Mila Jovovich did an awesome job playing in this movie. I love her beginning entrance in this movie where she starts speaking this weird language and the way that she just goes on about it. I don't know if she just made it all up or if they'd actually had the speech written out for her, but she did an amazing job speaking this ancient language. I can't leave out Chris Tucker in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
We have to talk about Chris Tucker's character. Chris Tucker's character just makes this movie. He is the comedic relief in this movie because this is kind of an action sci-fi movie.
No doubt about that.
But good Lord, he brings on the comedy. To this day, I've watched this movie probably 15, 20 times. To this day, every time I see him, I laugh. His charm in this movie is outstanding. I love it.
If he was not in this movie, it would be probably fairly straightforward type of affair as far as sci-fi goes. But every time he comes on screen, it's out of control. He steals the scene. He's beyond over the top in all of his scenes. And it just keeps you off kilter watching this thing. And I think that adds a whole nother dimension to it.
A bit of trivia about Chris Tucker. When they approached him about this film and they knew that they were going to put him in these elaborate costumes, the way that they finally got him to agree to wear all these things was by showing him the worst one first and getting him comfortable with that one and then saying, well, look, these aren't that bad. So I still to this day wonder which one it was of these costumes that he got to wear that they presented first.
Well, you obviously bought into it because he did the movie, and it turned out very well for him. They kind of put him on the map, I would say.
We've talked about the good, the bad. We've talked about our top picks. This genre definitely has a lot of good, has some bad, and there's definitely a lot of areas to explore. So if you like sci-fi films, definitely check out some of the ones we talked about and let us know of some of your favorite sci-fi films.
Yeah, we would love to hear that.
Come into the library and check out one of your favorite titles. So next time on Popcorn Diaries, we're going to be talking special effects. We're going to go in depth, talk about the early techniques, talk about today's technology, and where we think it's going to go in the future. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Adriana.
And I'm Joe.
And this was Popcorn Diaries. Fully yet encompassed exploring space and, being able to... I can't talk today. All right.
You want me to jump in there?
I'll jump in. So these were definitely times where we were... You have to look at it. some of the movies are so over the top that they're just not believable. They're so decadent and just
Okay.
this specific genre with the Mila Jovovich. Always Jovovich.
Titles we do have available here at the library, so please explore them. Please explore them? No, I don't want to say that. And we do have most of these titles here at the library, so don't be shy. Check them out.